Well done, Lucasfilm. You got me excited. Hello, everybody. I am the Goldman, and today we're going to talk about Star Wars Celebration. Even though we may not have gotten a lot of announcements per se, there was plenty out there for fans like myself to dig my teeth into. Finally, for like the first time since the 2020 Disney presentation, do I feel like Disney has an actual direction. A lot of what we learned and what was announced does have me very excited. Let's go through all the new announcements and information we got, and then we can also talk about certain things that weren't really touched on. So let's begin. On the live action front, we will start with Andor. For a while now, I have been really hyped about this show. I easily think it's Lucasfilm's most underrated project. Lucasfilm may have done a disservice with this show by naming it Andor, instead of something like Age of Rebellion or Dawn of the Rebellion or something like that. Andor can still be the main character and the series can still be mostly about him, but I think simply naming the show Andor deters a lot of fans because, let's be real, not a lot of fans know who Cassian Andor is. But setting that aside, the trailer really has given me blue balls. One of my favorite aspects of Rogue One was always the deconstruction of the rebellion. We always saw the rebellion as the good guys in the original trilogy, and they were, but realistically, if you're gonna try and overthrow a government, more likely than not, you're gonna do some pretty sus shit. We saw Cassian in the beginning of Rogue One kill this informant of his because he simply couldn't be trusted. That one scene from Rogue One sold me on the idea of this show. The morally gray aspects of the rebellion is fascinating. In the release teaser, we got a lot of that. But the aspect of the show that surprised me and now has me more excited than before is Mon Mothma and the politics of the Empire. Based on the early marketing of the series, it appears that Mon Mothma is going to be the second protagonist of the series next to Cassian Andor. Even though we've seen Mon Mothma in a variety of stories, she's never been an actual character that we got to understand and explore. Here it appears we are going to follow her as she tries to navigate the politics of the Empire. We are going to make a return to Coruscant, which was genius of the writers to include, and we will also see the return of the Senate, where we will presumably see the politics of the Empire. Even though the politics of the prequel trilogy weren't done all that well, it was mostly due to the time constraints of a 2-hour movie. The first season of Andor is 12 episodes long. This gives the storytellers plenty of time to flesh out the world of the Empire, similar to how the Clone Wars fleshed out the world of the Republic. There are so many fascinating aspects from this series to explore, from the Empire to the origins of the rebellion to Cassian's actual rebel cell. I get that this series is called Andor and the focus of this series is going to be on Cassian Andor, but if Lucasfilm successfully manages to weave all these story threads together into one cohesive narrative, you're gonna have something special. Last thing I want to say about this show is that it looks absolutely beautiful. You could easily convince me that this trailer could be for a Star Wars movie. I love the volume that was used to film The Mandalorian, but if every show is going to be using that every time, then Star Wars has the potential to become stale. I heard from some friends that this series is being filmed on location in a bunch of different places, and it's paying off. Of the 4 Disney Plus shows we have seen footage of, this one easily looks the best. There's just so much for the show to be excited for. And of all the projects that I'm going to talk about in this video, this one is the one I am the most anticipating. We got a good glimpse at The Mandalorian Season 3. There were 2 trailers shown at Star Wars Celebration, but not to the casual fans, that did give us a good look at what's gonna happen in the season. Now, they have been leaked to the public, and I have seen them, but unfortunately, because Disney has been copyright striking a lot of people, I will not be showing any clips or images from the trailers. But if you do want to see those trailers, I'll post a few links down below. I'll be honest, the Book of Boba Fett did derail my excitement for the series going forward just a bit. Reuniting Grogu and Mando in that series and not in Season 3 of The Mandalorian was simply a boneheaded decision. I've come to terms with what happened in that series, and I'm ready to move on and look ahead. From the leaked trailers, it appears that the main plot of the season is going to be Mando returning to Mandalore to try and regain his honor he lost in the Book of Boba Fett. Along the way, he will run into Bo-Katan and some other Mandalorians, and conflict will ensue. The Empire was not really shown in the trailer. I mean, we got one look at Dr. Pershing, you know, the cloning guy, but I don't believe we saw any stormtroopers or anyone else from the Empire in those trailers. We know Moff Gideon is going to be in the season, but what his role will be, I have no idea. If I had to guess what the story of The Mandalorian Season 3 would be, I would guess it's going to be a quest that Mando has to go on simply to regain his honor that he lost from the Book of Boba Fett. Maybe he'll learn some terrible truths about his Mandalorian culture and leave the cult, because let's be real, it is a cult. Or maybe Bo-Katan has gone power hungry and she needs to be taken out. People forget that Bo-Katan was once a Mandalorian terrorist. The only reason we don't see her as a villain is because in recent stories, her interests have aligned with our heroes. Either way, both stories can be interesting, but my biggest concern going into this season has to do with Grogu. I'm concerned that Grogu won't play a major role in this season, and that for a good portion of the season, he'll be there to just make the audience laugh and warm their hearts instead of actually serving a purpose narratively. This is why they shouldn't have been reunited in the Book of Boba Fett, so Mandalorian Season 3 could focus on telling the story of the Mandalorian culture. Now, Grogu can be wonderfully woven into the Mandalorian Season 3 and the story of the Mandalorian, and I really hope it does. It's just a major concern I have of the season. The Mandalorian Season 3 will come out in February of next year, so we still have some time to speculate and learn more. Jon Favreau also confirmed that he will be writing a Season 4 of The Mandalorian, so that's some interesting news. I'm still excited to see this season, but not as much as I once was. Moving back to stories I am dangerously excited for, let's talk about the Ahsoka series. Similar to The Mandalorian Season 3, there was a leaked trailer I can't show you guys, but if you want to see it again, it's in the description. While this show is going to feature Ahsoka as the protagonist, it's at its heart going to be a Rebels successor series. And as one of the biggest Rebels fans you will ever meet, this has me emotionally excited. I wouldn't say I grew up on Star Wars Rebels because it was coming out while I was in high school and college, but these characters in a way are my Han, Luke, and Leia. Every single member of the Ghost crew, besides Chopper, are characters that I love and dearly miss. There are only really two notable things to mention from that trailer. The first being that we saw a behind-the-back shot of Hera. I don't know who the actress is of Hera, but just simply seeing her again is going to be great. The other notable thing to mention from the trailer, and this is what really gave me chills, and it was a shot of the live-action mural at the end of Star Wars Rebels, and Sabine was standing in front of it, with the camera focusing on the drawing of Ezra. When I saw this, I got goosebumps. Sabine and Hera are two characters that I really love, but my heart really lies with Kanan and Ezra. The image focusing on Ezra confirms our speculation that this show will be about the search for Ezra. When we inevitably get to see Ezra again, because it's gonna happen, that might be a moment that could break me and I might cry on stream. I don't really have any specific wishes or wants from this series. I know Thrawn will likely play a big role, which is awesome. I love Thrawn. I guess my only wish, besides a well-written story, is that they have a good reason for why Ezra's been gone for so long. We know Ezra would want nothing more than to see his Ghost Crew family again, but there has to be a good reason why he's gone. For me, this series is just behind Andor in terms of my excitement, and the only reason Andor is much higher is because Andor comes out in a few months and this series is over a year away. So now we have two new shows called Skeleton Crew and Young Jedi Adventures. We didn't get many new announcements, but these were two of them in terms of live action. So there aren't many plot details on Skeleton Crew. Basically, all we know is that this series will take place shortly after Return of the Jedi, and it will involve Jude Law and a few 10-year-old kids. When it comes to new actors playing new characters, I don't really care who shows up. The only time I've ever seen Jude Law in a movie was in Captain Marvel, so I don't really have a strong opinion on him either. When it comes to the concept of this series, it seems like it could be really fun. I haven't seen Stranger Things, but a lot of people are comparing the concept of Skeleton Crew to that series, and that could be fun, but I do think that people are getting the wrong impression of this series. Even though it was mentioned that this series will be about a bunch of kids, the show won't be made for kids. Solely. Pretty much all Star Wars shows recently have been named after a singular person, so it's refreshing that this is a change of pace. Now with the Young Jedi Adventures series, this seems like a show that is made for kids, which is fine. I feel like Star Wars fans have this impression that everything needs to be made for them, and that shouldn't be the case. Star Wars should appeal to a wide variety of people, both kids, little kids, and adults. I'm glad that there's going to be a show that is solely aimed for kids. And just because the show is aimed for kids, that doesn't mean adults can't enjoy it. There are plenty of kids' movies that I've seen that I love. This show will be our first look into the High Republic live action, so that's pretty awesome. With these shows, I don't have many thoughts. My only fear about Skeleton Crew is that they only hired John Watts because of the success of Spider-Man No Way Home. Yeah, it was a great movie, but his other two Spider-Man movies weren't that great, so. And besides Spider-Man, I'm not really familiar with his other work. So since there aren't really any plot details about either one of these shows, all I can say is that they've piqued my interest, but nothing more than that. On the animated front, we got Bad Batch Season 2. I'm not exaggerating when I say I have no interest in this show. I thought the first season was a major disappointment. Of 16 episodes, only around 5 of them were actually worth watching. So with this second season, I'm not invested in what's gonna happen. I don't think the characters are bad. I like the Bad Batch crew, and I think Omega is very sweet. I just don't trust the storytellers to tell a compelling story with these characters. The only thing about this series that has me remotely interested was the ending of season 1, where they teased that the cloners were going to begin working on something which could potentially tie into Palpatine's return in the sequels. I hope this series is great. I hope I completely changed my mind about it. I just don't expect that to happen. Now, something I'm excited about but also disappointed in is Tales of the Jedi. Right off the bat, I think it was a giant missed opportunity to make this show only about prequel characters. The Star Wars timeline is so vast. You could tell stories about the characters from the prequels, sure, but you can also do stories with Luke and Leia from the originals, Luke and Ben Solo, literally a story with any one of the kids from Luke's Jedi Academy, do something with Rey after the Rise of Skywalker, or go way back in the timeline and do the Old Republic or High Republic. While I am excited for the stories that we're gonna get from the prequel characters, I can't help but be disappointed. I just get the vibe that Lucasfilm is focusing on catering to only prequel fans and are ignoring the rest of the timeline. But with that out of the way, this series is gonna focus on mostly 2 characters, Count Dooku and Ahsoka. I love Ahsoka like the next guy, but I'm kind of fed up with her in this timeline. In the Mandalorian timeline, give me as much of her as possible, but around the Clone Wars, I've seen enough. Supposedly one of the episodes is about her as a baby with her Togruta family. I couldn't care less about that. Besides Anakin, not once have we been told any story about a Jedi before they were taken into the Jedi Order, so this story doesn't interest me one bit. It looks like there will be a story about her and Anakin training, so that is at least mildly more interesting. So with the Ahsoka stories, I could go without them. Now on the other hand, the younger Count Dooku stories are brilliant. We will be getting stories with Dooku as a Jedi, along with a younger Mace Windu and Padawan Qui-Gon. That is something completely new and I'm all for it. For one, there isn't much Qui-Gon content outside of him in The Phantom Menace and a few books, so seeing more of him will be great. Also, getting the relationship between Qui-Gon and Count Dooku on screen is awesome. I'm kind of repetitive, I know, but I cannot emphasize how excited I am to see these stories with Count Dooku. So overall, Tales of the Jedi is kinda a mixed bag for me. The Dooku stories sound excellent, but I don't really care about the Ahsoka stories, and I'm disappointed that it's only going to be about prequel characters. Star Wars Visions is getting a season 2. That's cool, I guess. The first season is kind of fun to watch if you're on drugs, so I'll probably be doing that for the second season. On the video game front, the only news we got was Jedi Fallen Order 2, which is going to be called Star Wars Jedi Survivor. I'm totally down for this. I loved the first game and the entire cast. The trailer for this game was intriguing. We didn't really get much in terms of the story. There's this one senator dude, Cal's fighting some dude with a red lightsaber, and then there's another dude in this tank. I have no clue who's in this tank or who it could possibly be about. My only real hope for this game is that we get to play as Merrin. I'm not much of a shipper, but I totally ship Cal and Merrin. I thought Merrin was really cool and that it would be awesome if we could play as her. Granted, the story is called Jedi Survivor, not just Survivor, so I don't know if we're allowed to play as someone who's not a Jedi, but I don't care, give me Merrin. I'm not going to speculate too much about this game. I have full trust in the storytellers to tell a compelling story. I'm mildly annoyed that this game is only going to be available on the next gen consoles, but I understand why the developers had to do that. But overall, this is what I'm hyped for. The last topic I want to talk about is the lack of certain announcements. For one, we got absolutely nothing about the movies. Of course, since the Lucasfilm movie division can't make a movie without major problems, Rogue Squadron isn't going to happen anytime soon. We did get news that Taika's movie is probably going to be next, but we don't have a release date. I'm just frustrated that they couldn't give us a title of the movie or a vague concept of what it's about. Kathleen Kennedy said they're targeting a late 2023 release date. If that's the case, this, then they 100% have a concept for the story already done. I get really frustrated with Lucasfilm when there is an announcement they could easily give to the fans or show them something new, but they just don't do it. I'm not expecting a whole synopsis of these movies or anything, but simply saying, oh, this story is going to be in the Old Republic, or this story is going to be after the Rise of Skywalker is all I want. When they announced Rogue Squadron, they couldn't even tell us what part of the timeline it is in. I know recently Kathleen Kennedy said they'd like to have it be after the sequels, but it's still not a confirmation. And of course, we got absolutely nothing about Rian Johnson's trilogy other than a vague comment made in Vanity Fair. Even though I was slightly negative at the end, I think as a whole, Star Wars Celebration was a success. If I had to grade it, I would probably give it a B. There is a lot of great stuff coming out, and the future of Star Wars is certainly bright. Thank you everyone so much for watching another one of my videos. Don't forget to hit the Glod Squad, hit the like button please, and I'll see you guys next time.